and the freedom for students of any age to realise Dewey's vision by taking charge of their own learning journey. So with that great responsibility and privilege in mind, I'd like to warmly welcome you to the Alice Smith School and to this year's Librarians Knowledge Sharing Workshop. I hope that you enjoy your time here and that you benefit greatly from the opportunity to learn from each other, celebrate each other's work, and eventually head back to your own learning universities, refreshed and invigorated to lead the next generation of knowledge creators. Thank you.
And into our first non-introductory presentation. Our keynote speaker today is Hannah Alkaf, who is somebody who is becoming much more highly recognised recently. It was very interesting to me, because I think it's the first time when I've been cataloguing a book, and this was only a few weeks ago, where I did a search on Peters UK to actually, Petronet, to see what came up, and actually Hannah's books, I think the first when I've seen that book, were extremely highly regarded and recommended on that site. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Hannah Alkaf.
Never has a microphone made me feel so short. There we go. I'm Asian, guys. Like, this is for like non-Asian height. Okay? Bear with me while I get situated here. You guys are gonna have a lot of very serious sessions going on after this, right? So I'm gonna like joke around a little bit. Okay? Oh. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. See? Ace to ask for what you need. All right. Good morning, everyone. I don't remember the last time that I was given the opportunity to stand in front of a bunch of educators and librarians. It's sort of taking me back to my school days, at which point I might have like wet myself to see so many like intimidatingly intelligent adults staring back at me. But I'm gonna deal with it. I'm a trooper. All right. Good morning. Hello. Hi. My name is Hannah Alkaf. This is how I start all my presentations. It is not by any means unique. This is how most people start presentations. An introduction, a second or two to tell people your name. Hi, my name is Hannah Alkaf. The thing about that is that it's not the truth. Or at least it's not the whole truth. Because my name isn't just Hannah Alkaf. My name is Farahana binti Muhammad Alkaf. That's actually 5 names, count them. A few fun facts about this. Number 1, I have 2 older sisters who might actually kill me if they realize their faces are in this presentation. So 3 girls in the family in total. 3 Farahs. All of us have the same first name. Do you know how confusing that is? If people called the house asking for a Farah, we had to ask them to be more specific. My sisters and I once had a conversation on a Facebook thread, Farah Alkaf to Farah Alkaf to Farah Alkaf, and confused all of my friends. Number 2, I grew up not liking the name Hannah. It's a perfectly good name, and I love it now, but my sisters got middle names, fancy sounding middle names like Azlina and Marliza, and although by the time I was born, which was the last of 4 and a good 6 years after the last child, maybe my parents were just too tired and beaten down to think of that extra syllable and where to shove that letter Z, so I got Hannah. Number 3, I have 5 names. 5! Do you know what a pain filling out forms is? Do you know what it's like when you get those Scantron sheets for multiple choice exams and it's 10 minutes in, and you're still frantically coloring in those little bubbles just to spell out name number 4, and you're slightly worried that you colored something in wrong, so your name is appearing something like Farohani, and the person next to you smugly like flips the page over to start answering question number 5. This is stress. This phase didn't last forever, obviously. Eventually, I made my peace with being Hana. Eventually, I learned to accept it as part of who I am. Then, I left Malaysia. I went to college in America, in the city of Chicago, half a world away from the only place I've ever lived my whole life, and I went on my own. And that's when I realized that sometimes a name isn't just a name. Sometimes a name is a label. Sometimes it's an obstacle. Sometimes it's a neon sign pointing you out in a crowd. Sometimes it's a fence that puts you on one side and everyone else on the other. I would spend the next 6 years of my life, my entire time spent studying and working in Chicago, explaining my name, apologizing for it, accepting whatever way it was said, anything to make it easier for the people around me. Farah, like Farrah Fawcett, sure. Hannah instead of Hannah, why not? I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, I would tell people. I'm so sorry to confuse you. And don't even get me started on my last name, which is my father's name. The National Registry doesn't allow this anymore, but it used to be that you could officially abbreviate the name Mohammed to M-O-H-D, which is how my dad's name is spelled. So I spent a lot of time being called Miss Mode. Alkaf was like a tongue twister. I once tried to make a reservation on the phone for a restaurant, then meekly had to accept it when we were waiting for our table and they called for Sarah Alkax. What I was beginning to understand was that I had come from Malaysia, a place where my name was accepted and understood, a place where I never had to explain why I was called what I was called, where I never had to correct or accept mispronunciations of it. A place where, as a Malay person, I was part of the majority, where my name could in fact sometimes open doors for me just because of what it was. And where had I ended up? In a university, in a country where I was a minority, in a journalism school where there were only 3 other international students in my graduating class, in a place where people called me Farah like Farrah Fawcett and Hannah instead of Hannah, and I nodded and smiled and apologized and accepted it because I wanted so desperately to be accepted in turn, in a place where I knew no one, in a place where instead of privileged, I became a person of color. And I wish I could tell you that I was brave. I wish I could tell you that I stood up for my name and for my culture, that I looked people in the eye and said, "This is my name, say it right." But I was young. I was 19, and I was so far from home, and I was alone, and still trying to figure out this entirely new education system, and aching for friends. So what I learned to do was fold myself up, condense myself, fit myself into a box so I could fit in among all the other boxes. And I wish I could tell you that I graduated and started working and discovered a new courage. But I didn't. I stayed this version of myself for 6 years, the entire time I was in America. And I never even thought about it as being important. What was the big deal? I was just trying to fit in, right? I was just trying not to make trouble. But the problem with diminishing yourself is that it makes it easier for others to diminish you. When you make yourself take up less space, people will start treating you like you deserve less space. And you begin to believe it. you begin to believe that that's all you deserve. All right, sad childhood stories aside, let's backtrack for a second. When I was little, wrestling with my 5 names, I read a lot of books. And I read a lot of books in English. I grew up on Enid Blyton and J.K. Rowling, C.S. Lewis, and Roald Dahl. I grew up on a steady diet of books that told me about tea and crumpets, which is a thing I still don't know exactly what it is, midnight feasts at boarding schools, English countrysides, talking toys, magical worlds, hiding in the back of cupboards, magical beasts that guided you through your adventures. Now, do you know what those books had in common? Jo, Anne, Matilda, Harry, none of the characters had a name like mine. And none of the authors had a name like mine. So I grew up thinking that people like me didn't get to tell stories. I grew up thinking we didn't get to be heroes. I didn't understand that just because it hadn't happened yet didn't mean it couldn't happen at all. I made myself less. And you know, it would be nice to think that this was all in my head.